Now let's go back to our Jetpack Joyride and see which lines of code we want to execute, not always, but just in some cases. Well, for example, this is a line of code that is moving us upside, and you will be surprised, but it's not a line of code that we really always want to execute. We even don't want to execute it on each key up. We actually want to execute it only if the player is not too much on top of the playing field. So this is the reason I will put this line of code inside a curly brackets like those. And now I have the curly brackets of key up and another curly brackets in them. So the code on line 20 will be executed if there is a key up and if the thing that we should check in the round brackets is true. So we should write here something that is not 15, not 5,000, not a million, not 3, not some other different crazy number, not anything else, but only the kind of thing that can be checked and will result in a true or a false. Such statements can be called Boolean. They are called to James Boole, a very special mathematician, lived 100 or 200 years ago, and he experimented a lot with such a logical statements which can be only true or false. I'm going to try to write now a Boolean statement. I will get a Boolean result from two numbers, for example 3 and 5. I should write something between them, some arithmetic sign that you have learned in the first classes of school. So the first mathematical or arithmetic sign that you've learned in school can be placed between 3 and 5 and will not result in a Boolean statement, because 3 plus 5 is not true, it's not false, it's actually 8. So plus is not a good sign to get bool. You need some other sign between 3 and 5 to get either true or false. Can you think of such a sign that you've learned in math classes? Well, yeah, this is this sign, for example. This sign can be placed between 3 and 5. And now my code can execute again. I don't have any errors here in my... I just have a lot of times spammed line 15 of my code, so I'm going to delete it. And there is nothing wrong with my code, but except that my jumping is now not working. So it appears that our new knowledge is horrible. It broke my line of code. Line 19, my y equals my y minus 40. is only executing if 3 is more than 5, and apparently this happens, well, never. It's stupid to write here Boolean statements that will always be false, because they just disable the code in the curly brackets. You can totally delete it if you don't want it to execute. It's a better idea to write if with always true value, like is 3 less than 5. Well, let's try it now. Somebody might say that now it's working, but it's just as working as before I wrote this if. So again, this is pointless if. Always it just make the player jump. I've wanted to make a different check, and it was going to be more useful because it was not going to be neither true nor false every time, but just sometimes, and that's what is needed and useful. That's what if is useful for: writing checks that make a line of code execute just sometimes. Such a check would be, for example, if my y is less than 300. Let's see how this is going on. For example, now I can jump, and I jump every time. You can say this is something stupid, I didn't make anything now. Well, instead you can see that when I let my y to go beyond 300, well, then I'm too far down, and now my Boolean check will be false, and this line of code will never execute again. This is a stupid check to write here. Actually, what I need is to check if the player is too further up. Perhaps we should only let him go up while he's still in the playing field, and if his y is actually bigger than 0, only then he will be able to jump. Let's see how this is working. Now I can jump, and you can see that when I'm on top of the playing field, I can jump no more. There is something else I want to fix now. We now cannot go over the playing field, but we still can fall down from it. Try to fix this. Try to make a new if that prevents the player from going too much down. Perhaps you should put the line of code that makes the player fall in a new if. Try to do it yourself now.